Jai Hind Cadets, I'm Cadet Anamika Sharma from 1 Chandigarh Naval Unit, and today we'll be discussing the basics of social service and its need. That is the first chapter in social awareness. So let's start. There are basically certain methods by which you can conduct social service. They are social case work, social group work, and community organization. Social case work is basically an organization, a method that aims to help the individual make maximum use of the established community through understanding the individual in his total situation. Social group work, it seeks to help the individuals utilize their fullest capacity for their own welfare and for the welfare of the group as a whole through understanding of the behavior of individuals in a group setting. Community organization. It attempts to help groups of individuals or groups of agencies to work together so that their combined efforts will be useful for the social welfare of the whole community. What are the types of social service activities? The activities that can be taken under are education, family welfare, medical care, family planning and nutrition, provision of water and cooking fuel, roads, electricity and sanitation, recreation, sports and social activities, housing and rehabilitation, social assistance, social security and care and protection, employment, and old age support systems. So, what is the need for social service? So basically, India is divided by the classes of society. All right. So there are the scheduled tribes and scheduled castes, which basically क्या होता है कि so basically India is divided by a social hierarchy called the caste system. This system has been abolished in India, but it still exists. And as we're trying to suppress it even more, this caste system, the government remembers to always ensure reservation for the advancement of any social activity and for the educationally backward classes of citizens or for the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So now we're going to discuss the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So they are basically communities that are recorded special status by the Constitution of India. They are considered outcasts because originally when the country started, like before the independence, they were not supported by the law. So they have been traditionally relegated to the most menial kind of labor with little possibility for upward mobility and are subject to intensive social disadvantage and discrimination. These people are also known as Dalits, and scheduled castes are known as Dalits and scheduled tribes are known as Adivasis. These are offensive terms that people should not use. So, according to the 2001 census, the population of scheduled castes is 16% and the scheduled tribes is 8% of India's total population. So, what are other backward castes? These groups are basically a group of subcastes which are socially and educationally backwards, but they still have a higher status than the scheduled castes or scheduled tribes. According to the 2006, there are approximately 2,300 communities that are listed as backward castes. Central and state governments are enjoined to ensure their social and educational development. So, what are the needs for the weaker sections of our society? Education. So, वो तो is a basic need for all the society parts, but mostly it's a basic need for the weaker sections of our society. The right approach would be to provide education to all weaker sections, uh, to prevent them from dropping out of school and making them natural competitors, to give scholarships at higher levels. So in at the village level, the opening of schools जो basic education provide करते हैं वो कोई vocational skill भी सिखा सकते हैं, जैसे कि basket weaving, painting, printing, tailoring. Basically skills that require some sort of artistic level that will help in achieving self sufficiency. Specifically, trained teachers should be given like adequately compensated so that talented people do not hesitate to go to villages. Schools should also educate the villagers on moral values, hygiene, first aid, family planning, budgeting, and saving. Villagers must be educated on the need for educating the girl child, as she is the one responsible for bringing up future generations. She should therefore develop courage, self confidence, a competitive spirit, and a sense of equality with boys. Social evils such as the dowry system, child marriages, and superstitions should be taken up for discussion and their drawbacks should be pointed out so that they become events of history. वो जैसे कि पुरानी बात बन जाए. Employment. So, provision of land to landless and helping them in working alive by providing softer loans for cultivation can take care of employment numbers to some extent. Taking up of infrastructure projects will help in creating large number of jobs. Okay, now we'll discuss reservation in educational institutions and government jobs. So education basically is a term जो describe करती है policies where a portion of jobs, positions or academic seats are set aside or reserved for a certain group. क्या करते क्या हैं इसमें ये they basically lower the entry criteria for identifiable groups who are grossly underrepresented in proportion to their number in the general population. Chapter 2, that is rural development programs. So basically, it's a process that aims at improving the quality of life and standards of the people living in rural areas. It can be overall defined as the development of rural areas to improve quality of life. It is an integrated and sustainable process which basically includes improvement of rural areas in social, economical, political, and spiritual aspects of the poorer sections of our society. So, rural development encompasses for the following. Number one, finding ways to improve rural life with the participation of the rural people themselves so as to meet the required need of the rural area. You will require the participation of the people living in that area to find out what the needs of that area, certain needs of that area are, and to improve on those aspects first before attaining a certain level of luxury. It also covers the following activities. तो ये चीज़ें हैं मेन जिसमें रूरल डेवलपमेंट फोकस करती है. एजुकेशन, हेल्थ, बैंकिंग, रोड्स, water and electricity, employment, small scale industries and agricultural products, crop, poultry and farming, animal farming, rural tourism. What is the need for rural development? In order to become a global power, we need to develop our rural areas. First of all, we need to bridge the division between rural and urban. Okay? We have to make them alike. We need to make the living conditions alike. To bridge the economic gap between rural and urban incomes. Then to control or reduce mass migration of population from rural to urban areas. To have equitable distribution of resources and development activities. To create more job opportunities and to empower the rural population. So, important rural development programs in India. Let's start with Magnarega. So, Magnarega. On 2nd Feb 2006, the National Rural Employment Guarantee Act of 2005 NREGA was launched, and in 2010 it was renamed Magnarega, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. So basically it was the first ever law internationally that guarantees wage employment in an unprecedented scale. It aims at enhancing livelihood security in rural areas by providing 100 days of guaranteed wage in a financial year to every household whose adult members volunteer to do unskilled manual work. To start with, 200 selected districts of the country were brought under it, and within 3 years of its launch, Magnarega was extended to all districts of the country from 1st April 2008. The unique features of the Act: time-bound employment guarantee and wage payment within 15 days, incentive disincentive incentive disincentive incentive disincentive incentive disincentive structure to the government states incentive disincentive structure to the state government providing or not providing employment as per demand, an emphasis on labor intensive works, prohibiting the use of contractors and machinery, ensuring the creation of durable community, social, and economic infrastructure and assets in the rural areas. The Act also mandates 33% participation for women. Now let's talk about Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarozgar Yojana, also called the SGSY. So this was launched in April 1999. This is a holistic program covering all aspects of self-employment, including self-help groups, training, credit, technology, infrastructure, and marketing. So the objective of this is to provide sustainable income to rural areas. It is aimed at establishing a large number of micro enterprises in the rural area based upon the potential of the rural poor. Um, the program covers families below poverty line in rural areas of the country. Within this target group, the special safeguards have been provided for reserving 50% of benefits for SC/STs, 40% for women, 3% for physically handicapped persons. Subject to the availability of the funds, it will cover 30% of the rural poor in each block. In the next 5 years, SGSY has been restructured as National Rural Livelihood Mansion, NRLM, and now renamed as Ajivika. Now, Jawahar Gram Samriddhi Yojana. So what is this? ठीक है? Jawahar Gram Samriddhi Yojana is the restructured, streamlined and comprehensive version of the erstwhile Jawahar Rozgar Yojana. Designed to improve the quality of the life of the poor, this program was launched on 1st April 1999. The primary objective is the creation of demand-driven community village infrastructure, including durable assets at the village level and assets to enable the rural poor to increase the opportunity for sustained development. The wage employment under the program shall be given to below poverty line families, BPL families. Indira Awas Yojana, IAY. So this is the flagship rural housing scheme which is being implemented by the government of India with an aim of providing shelter to the below poverty line families. The government of India has decided that allocation of funds under IAY will be on the basis of poverty ratio and housing shortage. The objective of IAY is primarily to help construction of new dwelling units. This is mainly by members of ST/SCs, freed bounded laborers, and also non-ST/SCs who are rural poor below the poverty line by extending them granted aid. So this is a beneficiary oriented program aimed at providing houses to people who are victims of atrocities, households headed by widows and unmarried women, and SC/ST households below the poverty line. This scheme has been in effect since April 1st, 1999. Up to January 2012, a total of 42,531 habitations have been connected out of 63,940 habitations to be connected, and works for 58,387 habitations sanctioned. Okay, so the National Social Assistance Program, or the NSAP. The NSAP was launched in 1995 to 1996 The NACP was then comprised of the National Old Age Pension Scheme, the NOAPS, the National Family Benefit Scheme, the NFBS, and the National Maternity Benefit Scheme, NMBS. On 1st April 2000, a new scheme known as Annapurna Scheme was launched. This scheme aimed at providing food security to meet the requirement of those senior citizens who, though eligible, had remained uncovered under the NOAPS. In February 2009, the two schemes, namely Indira Gandhi National Widow Pension Scheme and the Indira Gandhi National Disability Pension Scheme, have been introduced under NSAP. The major benefits under these schemes are as follows. Number one, 10 kgs of food grains per month is provided free of cost. Number two, under NOAPS, rupees 75 per month was being provided per beneficiary to destitute who are 65 years or above. However, with effect from 1st April 2011, the eligibility for the old age pension under IGNOAPS has been reduced from 65 to 60 years, and the amount of pension has been raised from 200 to 500 for per month for those who are 80 years or above. The GOI approved a pension of rupees 200 per month per beneficiary to BPL widows in age group of 40 to 60 years. Consequent upon the revision in age limit under IGNOAPS, WEF, the upper age limit under IGWN WPS under IGNWPS was revised from 64 years to 59 years. Presently, the widow pension under IGNWPS is provided to BPL widows in the age group of 40 to 59 years. It is estimated that during the years 2011 to 12, 29 lakh beneficiaries would be covered under the scheme. A pension of rupees 200 rupees per month per beneficiary is provided to disabled persons with severe or multiple disabilities between the age groups of 18 to 64 belonging to BPL families under Indira Gandhi National Disability Pension Scheme. Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. In December 2000, a 100% centrally sponsored scheme, namely Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, the PMGSY. In December 2000, a 100% centrally sponsored scheme, namely Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, was launched with the objective of providing connectivity by all weather roads to about 1.60 lakh unconnected habitations with population of 500 and above, 200 persons and above in this respect of hill states, the tribal and the desert areas. So basically, through good all-weather roads in the rural areas by the end of 2007, up to January 2012, a total of 42,531 habitations have been connected. So the other development projects, let's look at them. These are basically details of rural development projects. So Sapurna Gramin Rozgar Yojana, the SGRY of 2001. This is for providing additional wage employment and food security along creation of durable community assets in rural areas. National Food for Work Program 2004, Drought Prone Area Program DPAP 1974, Desert Development Program DDP 1978, Integrated Wasteland Development Program IWDP 1990, Rajiv Gandhi National Drinking Water Mission RGNDWM 1991, Central Rural Sanitation Program CRSP 1986. So let's start with literacy enhancement and poverty alleviation. Literacy, what is literacy? It is the ability to read, write, speak, listen, and communicate effectively. Literacy in India has improved a lot over the last 1 decade, especially after the implementation of free education in villages. The rate of literacy has gone up tremendously. As per the data of the 2011 census, India has managed to achieve an effective literacy rate of 74.04% in 2011. There are almost 74% literates that constitute the total population of India aged between 7 and above. As per the report, effective literacy rates aged 7 and above approximately in 2011 were 82.14 for men and 65.46 for women. The census provided a positive indication that growth in female literacy rates 11.8% was substantially farther than in male literacy rates, that was 6.9% in the 2001 to 2011 period. It is estimated that by 2022, last 2 years, over 52 it was estimated that by 2020, over 50% of the illiterate population will live in India. Reasons for low literacy in India. So the reasons for low literacy, what are they? Firstly, let's discuss inadequate and poor infrastructure. So the study of 188 government-run primary schools in central and northern India revealed that 59% of schools had no drinking water facilities and 89% had no toilets. In 600,000 villages and multiplying urban slum habitats, free and compulsory education is the basic literacy instruction dispensed by barely qualified para teachers. The average pupil teacher ratio for all India is 1 to 42, implying the teacher shortage. It is estimated that at least 35 million and possibly as many as 60 million children aged between 6 to 14 years are not in school. Secondly, let's discuss the caste system. So, discrimination of lower castes has resulted in high dropout rates and low enrollment rates. The National Sample Survey Organization NSSO and the National Family Health Survey collected data in India on the percentage of children completing primary school, which are reported to be only 36.8 and 37.7 respectively. Let's discuss poverty next. So, absolute poverty in India has also deterred the pursuit of formal education, as education is not deemed of as the highest priority among the poor as compared to the basic necessities. Gender bias. The large proportion of illiterate females is another reason for low literacy in India. Inequality based on gender differences resulted in female literacy rates being lower at 65.46% than that of their male counterparts at 82.14%. Less than 2% of girls who engaged in agricultural work attended school. Lack of political will. At the time of independence, the literacy rate of India was only 12%. The fact that we needed to invest more in education was well established, but successive governments have failed to take the required initiative in this regard. The expenditure allocated to education was never above 4.3 of the GDP from 1951 to 2002, despite the target of 6% laid down by the Kothari Commission. So, what is literacy enhancement? Let's talk about that. The Government of India took several measures to improve literacy rates in villages and towns of India. The state governments have been directed to ensure and improve literacy rates in districts and villages where people are very poor. So, what are the steps taken? Let's look at that. National Literacy Mission. Let's talk about that first. The National Literacy Mission, launched in 1988, aimed at attaining a literacy rate of 75% by 2007. It imparts functional literacy to non-literates in the age group of 15 to 35. The Total Literacy Campaign is the principal strategy of the NLM for eradication of literacy. The continuing education scheme provides a learning continuum to the efforts of the total literacy and post-literacy programs. Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. So it was launched in 2001 to ensure that children aged between 6 to 14 attended school for the complete 8 years by 2010. An important component of the scheme is the Education Guarantee Scheme and the Alternative and Innovative Education, meant primarily for children in areas with no formal school within 1 kilometer radius, and centrally sponsored by District Primary Education Program, launched in 1994, had opened more than 160,000 schools by 2005, including almost 84,000 alternative schools. What are the non-governmental efforts? Let's look at that. The bulk of Indian illiterates live in the country's rural areas, where social and economic barriers play an important role in keeping the lowest strata of society illiterate. Government programs alone cannot dismantle the barriers built over centuries. Major social reform efforts are sometimes required to bring about a change in the rural scenario. So, non governmental organizations such as ITC, the Rotary Club, and the Lions Club have worked to improve the literacy rate. Sakshar Bharat. The Prime Minister of India launched Sakshar Bharat, a centrally sponsored scheme of Department of School Education and Illiteracy, the DSEL, and the Ministry of Human Resource Development, MHRD, Government of India, GOI, on the International Literacy Day, that is 8 September 2009. It aims to further promote and strengthen adult education, specifically of women, by extending educational options to those adults who have lost the opportunity of access to formal education and crossed the standard age of receiving such education, but now feel the need to learn something, including literacy, basic education, vocational education, physical and emotional development, practical arts, applied science, sports, or recreation. The Right to Education RTE Act of 2010. The right of children to free and compulsory education, or the Right to Education Act, was passed primarily on 4th August 2009 by the Indian Parliament. The Act makes education a fundamental part of every child aged between 6 and 14 and specifies minimum norms in elementary schools. It requires all private schools to reserve 25% of seats for poor families. The examination until the completion of elementary education. There is also a provision for special training of school dropouts to bring them up to par with students of the same age. So, what is poverty alleviation? Poverty in India is widespread, as we all know, with the nation estimated to have a third of the world's poor. In 2010, the World Bank reported that 32.7% of the total Indian people fall below the international poverty line of US $1.5% per day, while 68.7% of people live on less than $2 per day. Lack of market economy and government over-regulation and red tape, known as license Raj, is the main cause of poverty in India. While other Asian countries like China, Singapore, and South Korea started with the same poverty level as India after independence, India adopted a socialist centrally planned, closed economy. India has started to open its markets since its economic reforms in 1991, which has cut the poverty rate in half since then. Now let's discuss some poverty alleviation programs. Jawahar Gram Samriddhi Yojana started on 1st April 1999. The main aim of the program was to develop the rural areas. Its secondary objective was to give out sustained wage employment. This was only given to BPL families. National Old Age Pension Scheme, NOAPS. As the name suggests, the scheme provides pension to old people who are the age of 65 or above, who could not fend for themselves and did not have the means of subsistence. This pension was given at a rate of 200 rupees per month. This pension is given by the central government. National Family Benefit Scheme, NFBS. This was started in August 1995 by the GOI. This scheme provides a sum of 10,000 rupees to a person of family who becomes the head of the family after the death of its primary breadwinner. A breadwinner is the person who is above 18 and earns most for the family, and the family survives on his or her earnings. The scheme is for families below poverty line only. National Maternity Benefit Scheme. This scheme provides a sum of 500 to a pregnant mother for the first 2 live births. The women have to be older than 19 of age. It is given normally 12 to 8 weeks before the birth, and in case of death of the child, the woman can still avail it. Annapurna. The scheme was started in 2000 to provide food for senior citizens who cannot take care of themselves and are not under the Targeted Public Distribution System (TPDS), and who have no one to take care of them in their village. The scheme would provide 10 kgs of free food grains a month for the eligible senior citizens. Rural Housing Indira Awas Yojana, IAY. The scheme was aimed at creating housing for everyone. It aimed at creating 20 lakh housing units, out of which 13 lakh were in rural areas. The scheme also would give out loans to people as subsidized rates to make houses. Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, the MGNREGA. The scheme was started in 2005 and guarantees 100 days of paid work to people in rural areas. The scheme was proved to be a major boost in Indian rural population's income. The contribution of youth towards social welfare. Okay, so the contribution of youth towards social welfare has been discussed in like the following activities. Let's start with leadership. So the youth are the leaders for tomorrow, कितना तो हमें पता है, and young and vibrant youth are essential for future leadership. Support is provided to voluntary organizations to participate in youth development programs. Youth need to involve themselves in activities which will develop creditable leadership. Community service. Youth need to work in social welfare activities and community services. Therefore, community service has been developed as an integral part of the curriculum for education, instruction, and training of all students enrolled in educational institutions so that youth can fruitfully understand and contribute in community service. National and cultural integration. The youth, when organized as youth force, will contribute for the promotion of national and cultural integration. Fostering and developing interaction between youth from different parts of the country, especially isolated borders and tribal areas, will help in achieving national integration. It should be the endeavor of youth to motivate the general public to work against the separatist forces and ensure unity of the country is maintained. Education and literacy. The youth need to educate themselves and subsequently get into the process of providing quality education to all sections of society. They need to promote education for self-development of the rural youth, specifically of girls and youth in backward castes. Environment. The youth must understand the important and implications of environment on the society and the ecological wealth of the nation. They must help in improving and protecting the environment. They need to engage in afforestation programs and cleaning of rivers and lakes and disposal of degradable and non-degradable wastes. Healthcare and family welfare. They must promote awareness and involvement in social programs pertaining to health and family welfare. Programs such as Youth Against AIDS campaign, Pulse Polio, Small Family Norm, and various immunization programs should be promoted. They must also volunteer in manpower intensive programs at the implementation stage. Physical education and adventure training. The youth must understand the importance of physical education for health and physical fitness with a view to increasing individual productivity and the value of sports as a means of recreation and with the potential for promoting social harmony and discipline. Old age care. Our basic social fabric and the joint family system inherently provide for old age care. However, with the breakdown of the joint family system, we need for the old age care has increased. The youth must contribute to the well-being of the senior citizens of the society by taking care of their aged and providing them financial security and moral self-respect, and make all the efforts to ensure that they have a secure old age with adequate housing and health care. Watershed and wasteland development. These two are one of the major resources which need to be continuously protected and systematically proclaimed and developed, and this can be used for various social welfare activities. The youth has genuine potential for this nature of work. They must contribute to these programs and ensure that these areas are protected and unscrupulous elements who may enter these areas of interests for personal gains. Our youth are the strength of the family, village, locality, and the community. They are also the future of the nation. We must take all the necessary steps to mobilize the most idealistic, inspired, and energetic section of our society in the mission of the nature building and social welfare. So, thank you all for watching, and I hope you all learned something today.